Okay, about to install the tail sections, tail feathers as they're called from time to time. Out of the bag of bags, get bag B. In bag B you'll find 3 screws that are this size. They're 14 millimeters long, and you'll find 2 where we go here, there, right? 2 tiny little screws, and there's a spare of each, so you need 1 tiny and 2 large ones. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the spare ones back in the bag. Okay, so we got 3 screws there. Save the spare parts for later. Got the horizontal stabilizer with the elevator on it. Got the vertical stabilizer with the rudder on it. And the 2 large screws are going to go in this after we stick it on the airplane. And the tiny little screw is going to go right there. Okay, so after we get the thing assembled, and these 2 put in, we're going to screw that tiny little screw right in here to hold all this in place, the tail wheel in place. Okay, and I got my favorite 3 favorite screwdrivers: the Precision, the battery powered, and just a regular Phillips. And I always have my tweezers handy. So I'll meet you over at the airplane. Thank you. Okay, over here at the airplane, we're going to start with the horizontal stabilizer. A little indent right here is where that goes, and you should be able to look down and see the openings for where the these 2 little long things go. Now when you put the rudder on, you got to sort of move or put the vertical stabilizer on, you got to sort of move the rudder to the side so the control horn for the rudder will go underneath the elevator. So you put that in place, and then you just push that down in. Okay, there we go. It's down in nice and tight. Now I'm going to hold this and turn it upside down. That way I can drop the screw in. Let me get one of the large screws and just drop him right in there. I think I'll start with the battery powered one first. We'll see how that works. Now what I'm going to do is hold tight from the bottom, from underneath, and just use this to start the screw. Okay. Get the other one. Okay. And start that screw. Okay, I like to start screws first, get them both started. And now I can check here and see that that's not tight enough. Okay, so I'm going to hold that, and I think I'll use this one to tighten it up, because I like the, maybe not. Let me get around here. Actually, the electric one seems to be working better. A bit more. A little bit more. Okay. Okay. This one can be a little bit tighter. We'll try the head on this one, see if it works. Nope. Alright, so what do you want to do is make sure that this isn't moving up and down, and it's still moving up and down a little bit, so it needs to be just a little bit tighter. Alright, that's about half a turn. that one seems nice and tight. Alright, another quarter to half a turn on this one. There we go. Alright, so what you don't want to see, get a little closer here, you don't want to see any gap along right here. So there's no gap. If I try to move the horizontal stabilizer, it doesn't move. So no gap along here. Okay, so those two screws are in place. Next, we're going to take the tiny little screw. And there is the tiny little screw. And you're going to have to wiggle this until the screw is in place. Boy, that is a tiny little screw. Let me see if I can grab it another way with the tweezers. There we go. Do not drop this on the floor because you may never find it. That's why they give you two. There we go. Now because that's a tiny little head, I think the precision screwdriver is going to work better. Okay. Now I'm wiggling the rudder here and it looks like the hole's in place. So the precision screwdriver is going to work best for this one. And just get it down. You don't want it too tight because you don't want it to bind the rudder back and forth. So there is just a, let me do a slight more tightening. Here we go. Alright, so the head of the screw is not down on the piece that it's going through. So it won't bind at all. Okay, those two in place. Let me pause for a minute and we'll get set up to install the clevises. Okay, as you can see on the bottom of page 6, it talks about the clevis installation. Over here it shows that I guess it's the rudder. No, actually they both have them. Both the rudder and the elevator only have 2 holes on it, and it shows you to put it in the outer hole. And also says after binding a transmitter to the receiver, set the trims and sub-trims to 0, then adjust the clevis to center the control surfaces. Alright, well I'm going to do that slightly differently. We're already bound. We know all the we don't have sub-trim on the radio, but we know all the trims are set to 0 because we already did that. So I'm turning the radio on. I'm going to go plug in a flight battery. Hold on a minute. I'll be right back. Let me get the flight battery ready to plug in. Okay, that was the radio turning on. I'm going to plug in the battery. And there goes the ESC saying we're ready. Be careful, do not bump the throttle because the aircraft is live. Okay, so now what that means is that the rudder and the elevator are neutral. So I'm going to zoom in. Let me see here. I'm going to zoom in on the, there we go. I'm going to zoom in right here on the rudder. And what I'm going to do is, there's fuel tubing right there. So there's fuel tubing right there. I'm going to slide that back. That allows me to open up the clevis. Now what I'm going to do is just by sight, see how that looks. If you look down at the bottom down here, I guess you can't see that. Let me zoom back out. So if you look down here at the bottom, the rudder is neutral when the top of the rudder here is centered. So I'm holding that centered and I'm looking at the outer hole here, and this little clevis needs to come out about a half a turn to a turn. maybe 3/4 of a turn. Okay, so that looks centered. I'm going to open up the clevis just with my fingernail, fingers, and you have to be very careful with these clevises because they're plastic pins and they do break easily. So I've inserted the clevis pin into the control horn right on the outer hole, pulled the fuel tubing forward, and then if I sight down, let me see if I can turn this over. If I sight down right here, okay, that looks nice and straight there. Alright, let me move the camera so we can do the other side. Okay, the battery and the is still plugged in. The radio is still on. I'll actually move the rudder a little bit. It does appear to still be centered down there. So now we got the elevator. I'll move the elevator servo. Yep, it's moving nicely. It's centered. So now what I'm going to do is hold the elevator neutral with the just my finger here, and see where the pin is in relation to the outer hole here. And that screw needs to go in quite a bit. So I'm going to put it in maybe 3 or 4 turns. 1/2 turn, 1 turn, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3. I'll try that. Nope. 3.5, 4, 4.5. Now we'll try it. Nope. Another half, another half. Okay, now I'll see if I can zoom in for you here. Okay, as this thing can still move up and down, so but as I hold this out here, remember this is not moving because the radio is on. So that little pin is going right in the top hole. So that's where you want it to be. I'm going to let go, open the clevis. Okay, and put that in place. Again, be very careful with these pins because they will break on you if you're not careful. And then you put the fuel tubing in, and then you grab the radio, and then you come back. Let me zoom back out. And then you come back here and see if that's centered. It's slightly off. So let me see how far off it is. Yep, off enough to change. Let me come back in here and open this up. Now it needs to go that way. So I'm going to undo the clevis, move the fuel tubing, undo the clevis, screw it in probably a good okay, 1/2, 1, 1.5, 2. We'll try that. Okay, elevator servo is in good place. Yeah, that's going to be better. Okay, I'm not move the fuel tubing, come down here in sight. Nope, another 1/2 turn. Because we don't have any sub trim, this is your sub trim. 1/2. Try that. Nope, another 1/2 turn. It's getting better every time. Another 1/2 turn. Sneaking up on it. Alright, that's good. So I'm going to lock that in place, and I'll show you what good looks like. So I'm going to pick up the, let me zoom back out. I zoomed out all the way? Yeah. Alright, so I'm going to zoom back out here and then hold the, you can see right here that those two things are matched, and that's what you want. And then right here on the rudder, slightly off. I'm going to live with that one. I think another half turn actually might do it, but I'm going to live with it. So that means the clevises are in place, locked in with the fuel tubing, and the control surfaces are zeroed out. I think we're done with this portion. And don't forget that the radio is still on, so I'm going to come over here and unplug the battery. And turn off the radio. Okay, one dead airplane, thank you.